So the popular question, where is Doge going? Doge, the coin, that area that seems to be wanting to be pumped. Again, this is not financial advice. I got to start with this. You read the disclaimer. This is simply for entertainment and educational purposes only. And if you are going to do any kind of investing, please consult with your financial professional. Now that that's set, let's take a quick look at Doge and see where we think it's going to go. We're going off of Bittrex Exchange because that has pretty good history, and obviously recently there was a huge pump in terms of Doge, and where's it headed? I know people who got it right around the 28 cents and we're looking to ride it, and unfortunately they may still be stuck in it, kind of like a lot of people are. And a lot of people think it's going to go to the moon. Is it? Well, let's take a look. Before you're done, you probably have a pretty good technical analysis idea as to where this might be headed. Now, this is, again, technical analysis. I don't generally go off of too much off of the news or anything of the sort. News can be helpful in terms of when something is ready to take off, just and kind of give it a spark. But I like to look more technical analysis, and the monthly perspective here, we see that it had a huge pump. Obviously this was all the way from way down here to up here, so that's a 232,000% jump in, if I go as far back as that, 1491 days. That's a long time. Let's do it a little closer to here if you happen to get so lucky there. And you would have had possibly if you caught it at the bottom of that at 0.2 of a cent, then that would have been a beautiful 24,000. Now, I was one of the fortunate ones that caught it around 3 cents and caught part of that. I didn't catch the whole thing because I didn't know exactly where it was going to go either at that point. But it's definitely something that a lot of people made a lot of money on. So let's take a look. Where do we think it's going to go next? So if I'm looking at it from the monthly side, this huge candle right here, this huge wick, is telling us that this is a strong. There's somebody who dumped, or organizations that dumped a lot into people buying into it. So institutional traders tend to do that. The volume started to die down here a little bit, but still pulled that back down all the way down to 16 cents. And then right now it's currently sitting at about 20 cents. So I generally start with a larger time frame, and then we move into smaller time frames. Now we're moving into the weekly to get a better picture of this. And could we have predicted some of what's going on here? Let's take a look. Okay, so when we're looking at this, if I were to just be, let's say, over here in this region, and I'm trying to get a sense of where this might go based off of this price right around here, where would I possibly, is if this is going to jump, if this manages to jump all the way up, where might it go? So taking a fib, if you're familiar with Fibonacci sequences, this would give you a pretty decent idea. From the lowest that I've seen in the last, whatever it was, what is this period of time? Let's measure it from here, from this high to here. That was roughly 7 bars, so 7 weeks, so about 49 days. So about 49 days or so. It obviously took that big jump, and if you missed that, then it came back and it bounced here, and it bounced down into the 50%. Now, if it bounces to the 50%, it manages to stay above here. It's telling us, hey, you might have an extra little jump, possibly up into this region. And if it was what's considered a super cycle, it would be looking at something way up here. And let's take a look how that unfolded. So it stayed there for a little bit longer. That's another week, and then it started to kind of move up in that direction. And here we go. Boom. Super cycle. Look at that. Now it did jump all the way to 45 cents right here, but it pulled back on that week all the way in here. Now, in order to look at closer what that would be, we would probably need to drop to the day and seeing what was happening in the day at that point. Now it closed there, and on the daily charts, now it started pulling back. So now we would go, okay, well, let's take a look. Where is this pulling back to? Generally pulls back to around the 50 or the 618. if you're doing a retracement. So about 50 is a good one to take a look at. And if it matches the bounce off of there, it could potentially continue on to the 1618, which is about 72 cents. And let's see how that unfolded. Get bouncing off to 50. There's the bounce to the what's considered it. Well, if I reverse this because of a retracement, this would be 618. And let me just show you so that we can make it easier here. Reverse it. Okay, so if I reverse that, that's a 618. It bounced off of here, and it managed to stay up here. So that gave me a pretty good idea if I was watching it, which my mistake was that I didn't continue to watch it. So that affected my being able to get back into that trade and potentially ride the rest of it. So there it is. Boom, boom. And look at that. What a nice treat right there. 72 cents. We've got 1 cycle, 2 cycles, 3 cycles. And after here, it's probably going to take a little bit of a break. So now let's go ahead and exit this thing. It didn't go much higher than that whatsoever. And now we're seeing a bit of what is considered to be a head and shoulders pattern, which generally it's probably not a great thing in terms of if you're holding this and you're having to wait it out. So we're way down here. Let's say we take that from way down here. We go to the top of that, to the bottom of here, to the top of that, to the bottom. Well, this would be, I mean, I could argue that that could be a neck, or this could be a neck right here, but it's probably not going to be it. So let's make it a little more conservative here. Let's make it there, and we're going to move this up a little bit after we are finished. There's the right shoulder, and generally speaking, we're going to put it here for temporarily. I'm going to move this up a little bit. It tends to lock up a little here when we do the locks. And we're going to pull that back to right about here. Why, Leo? Why are we pulling this here? I could argue that, it should be over at the close of the body, but because this wick through here and we have that stop right there, we're going to make that the shoulder, head, shoulder, the right shoulder. And here it's testing the neckline. This is the neckline right there. If it cannot close above that, then generally this tends to retrace about to the 886 or this. Oops, let's change that here for a moment. Let's move that over. So we're down here for that. Now let's lock it and make sure that we can get the right one. And let's go to the top up here. We got that right there. And since we're looking for how far of a retracement, we're going to reverse it again. And we are going to extend the line so that we can see them a little cleaner here on the right. And that's a 786 for people who are in the regular markets. A 786 is probably going to be where they're going to want to take some take a bounce, because that's where the general markets tend to bounce. And if I'm in the crypto space, I might look to get a little lower. One of the popular ones is 0886. And we go down in here. So I would suspect I would want to look right in here. Is there something here that provides some support? Well, would you look at that? We do have some support right here. We have support right there. Of course, the bottom of that support would be down into these numbers right in here. Let's go right about there. So that is my support zone that I would expect to see some level of potential bounce back up and start a new, maybe sit there for a while, and then after that look to start a new cycle. Again, this is not advice, but this is my sense of where potentially it could go before it starts to do a bounce. Now, if it manages to bounce through here, which I certainly doubt it, because Bitcoin tends to be still king in the crypto industry, in the crypto world, and it's expected that Bitcoin will continue to battle some of these lows that it's having, and there's even the possibility that it could try to challenge the 20,000 or lower levels. We've done another analysis. If you aren't familiar with that one, there'll be a video. There'll be a link to that video here, so that you can see what the long-term assessment of Bitcoin was, and seeing if it correlates with what we got here. So we got this. Now if it does manage to jump and it does manage to turn itself around, I would be looking for the possibility of, let's turn some of this around. We're gonna run into some significant points that we would need to get past. Those include, obviously, first we need to get past these levels, like we said before. We need to get past these levels right up here, which is very likely to get hit again. And then after that, we need to start looking at this level and this level's up here. So we move that up a little bit, so whatever the high is right there needs to be looked at before we can consider anything about that. Once it breaks beyond that, then a first stopping point could very likely, in my opinion, hit somewhere in these ranges. Now, how long is that going to take? Who knows? Okay, I mean, it could be months, it could be a year, I don't know. But when Bitcoin starts to jump, it probably will follow pretty soon after that. If it decides, some people say, well, it's going to go to the moon, it's going to fly, it's going to do amazing, it's going to, well, if that were to be the case, if it does what's considered a super cycle, then the next super cycle that we can expect will be probably somewhere in this range up in here. And when would that happen? I don't know. That might, it may need to bounce around. Hardly nothing goes straight up, as you can tell. Even though sometimes in the monthly it could look that way, like right here, it looks like it went straight up. It didn't. That's not how it unfolded. When you look at it on the daily, you see how it went up and down, up and down, up and down. And if it breaks down even lower, then it is going to be even more descriptive in terms of each of the levels that it has. So, long story short here, I know that everybody's just like, just tell me where it's going to go. I can't, because this is a prediction. This is something that we're just kind of, you're making your best plan possible that would give you this sense of where you're at. And from here, if you were way down here and it managed to hit that super cycle, then obviously we're looking at some really nice gains there, right? Even if it just hits this, it's some really nice gains. So those are some nice levels, but you would have to endure that cycle. So I can't tell you what to do, and I won't tell you what to do, but if I'm looking for an opportunity, I would definitely be looking at some of these levels and seeing where I could get in if I wanted to ride this baby again. Okay, so one of the other things that I'm going to do from a different perspective here that might help get an even more complete assessment of whether we are ready to start jumping back up is seeing a angled resistance level, and that would be somewhere in this area here to these, right? I'm going to put it there because it ended up, and I'm actually going to do that there to the body. So the bodies and this, and there's a wick, there's another wick, there's all these that it tried to jump through and it couldn't. Now it's trying to get above that and above that. It's got to get through that in a convincing manner, or it's going to take another cycle down possibly before it tries to jump back up. One last thing that we'll do is, if you have TradingView and you happen to be able to have the pro version, you can definitely use this tool. If you don't have it and you want to access it, then we'll put the link below so that you can get there, and it'll be obviously our affiliate link, which kind of gives us a little bit extra bonus, and we can continue to do these kinds of videos to help you out. So we got the in terms of education, okay, not investment advice, remember. But we're going to do a fixed a visible range and of volume, and without getting into too much depth as to what it all means, what we're seeing is that there's this, from the beginning of this cycle to the where it's at right now, this red line is significant. This little bunch right here is significant. That red line down here is significant. It's called a point of control, and it's very saying, hey, you very possibly you could hit those levels, which is really close to what we said. It could potentially go into that zone. So anywhere in that range, it is very possible. Could it stop right there? It could, but I would think that if it has enough momentum, it could easily get down into there real quick and then try to hop back up. And then it has to get through all this volume, which I can see another resistance point here, right in these levels. It has to get past that to be able to break out. So lots of lines, lots of things. Any of these teal lines are points that would be important to keep an eye on, and seeing if they can get past those. If we can get past those, then we are on a nice little trip up. But hope you found this useful. If you liked this video, if you liked, you're welcome to visit our channel. Just go ahead and subscribe. You'll get a lot more of these educational resources to help you to be able to learn about this even more. Again, not financial advice, but it's something helpful. So smash that like button, go ahead and subscribe, and share this with somebody. All right, looking forward to seeing you and have you check out some of our other videos.